I think I'm just going to start with saying a little bit about me and sort of where my story starts. I think that I was in the second grade in primary school when people started calling me out for being a bit different. I was always very feminine, and people always perceived me as a very feminine man. I was a feminine boy, and when I was in the second grade, I think people first started using words like gay and faggot and womanly to sort of degrade me. So right away I noticed that I really didn't fit in what it was to be a man, which you can obviously see didn't work out quite well. So it started off really early that I didn't fit in, and people started judging out of things like things that I liked, things that I did something degrading, a bit like said in the Madonna lyrics that it's degrading to do feminine things, especially if people perceive you as a man. But I didn't really know what it was to be trans at that time. I was very young, and there was no mentioning of trans, and I had no role models like a lot of people we have today. So for me, it was sort of just trying to steer through this and trying to figure out who I was. But I guess it was around when I was 13 or 14 when I got my first copy of a massive online multiplayer game called World of Warcraft, when I sort of guessed my journey started into realizing who I was. And I remember buying this game, and this is a huge game where you can play with a lot of people online, and there's a lot of different ways to play this game. They have a lot of servers, and they have a lot of different ways to play the game. They have something called PvP, which is player against player, and then you compete with other players in battles and stuff like that. Then you have PvE, which is player against enemy, and then you fight against computers. But then you also have something called role-playing, which is where you create a character that goes into that world, a bit like creating a character in a movie or in a book or in a play. And you create a character that you want to be, and you sort of make a story up for this character, and you act this character out inside like a virtual reality. And this is sort of where I first got the freedom to create a person that I maybe wanted to be myself. I wasn't maybe aware of it at that time that was what I was doing, but I was in reality sort of creating someone who I wanted to be. I had played a lot of video games before, and that was sort of like my escape from reality, to be able to go into a computer game and play something which had nothing to do with what other people thought. So when I started in World of Warcraft, I created a lot of female characters, and I started sort of investigating and thinking about what it would actually be like if I could be the woman in this computer game. And the thing about online multiplayer games is there's a lot of people all around the world that are also playing, so you get acquainted with a lot of people from all over the world. And when it comes down to getting to know them personally, we started like asking, like, where are you from, what's your name, and stuff like that. And I just sort of immediately introduced myself as a girl, and I took up another name, and it was sort of unconscious that I did this. I hadn't decided that this is what I was going to do, but it was just something that I felt much more comfortable with. So this game sort of became the start of my journey of realizing who I was, and I felt so much more comfortable playing this game. But when you gain friends in this game, of course you get closer and closer to different people. And when you're playing online, people are like, hey, what about meeting up in real life? Wouldn't that be kind of cool too? And that's when the problem started. I was like, oh, well, that's gonna be a big problem for me. I didn't exactly know how I was gonna do this, but one day I suddenly had a plane ticket to meet a bunch of people from online gaming, and I had no idea how I was gonna be the woman I am, and I was just like, this is gonna be kind of a big problem, because I've never presented as female or, told anyone about it, but I had started thinking about it for many years while I was playing this game, that maybe I was trans, and I started looking online for interviews of other people who were describing their experience, and I slowly started to realize that maybe this was something that I was experiencing, maybe I was trans as well. So all of a sudden I had this plane ticket and I'm going to England to meet these people, and I have no idea how the hell I'm going to do that. So that's the first time that I actually told someone that I was experiencing this, that I was trans, and I was 16 at this time, and it was my best friend from school, and her reaction was just that she was gonna help me. She ordered also a plane ticket and we went together, so she decided, you know, we're gonna do this and I'm gonna help you, and it's gonna be great, and you know, it's gonna be exactly how you want it to be. So that's when sort of this whole game started, because I had no clothes, so we started going into shops to buy clothes, and I pretended to be her boyfriend to buy clothes for her, but I was really buying clothes for me. And we had a lot of friends who thought this was kind of weird. So it was sort of like this game where we were always deceiving and making fun, and we were just pretending that this was what we were doing, and like the people who were at the clothing shops knew that, like, are you sure this is gonna fit you? Because we weren't the same size. So it was a lot of awkward situations in the store trying to buy clothes which I was secretly buying for me and not for her, and we developed this whole sort of like code words for all sort of things, and we just created like this sort of like a fiasco. It was a bit like we were deceiving everyone and nobody was allowed to know. And then I had like a clothing closet which nobody was allowed to open because there were a lot of dresses and things in there which people weren't maybe expecting. So it was a lot of hiding actually, which wasn't very good, but I was just too afraid to tell everyone about it. She was the only one who knew at that time. But there were a lot of awkward situations where people were getting closer to realizing what was happening, but we always managed to somehow escape being detected or something, the way you say it. So we decided to go and meet these people, which was quite scary actually. I remember having to dress up and doing she did all of the makeup and I dressed up and everything, and then I remember standing in the train station and I see the people on the other side of the train station and I'm like, I'm gonna go home, this is not gonna work out, because I was so nervous and I was so afraid that that people would realize or something would happen, or people wouldn't take kindly to anything if they knew that I was trans, and I had no idea what the reaction was going to be. But my friend basically told me that she was not turning back now. It was too late to do it now. She just grabbed my hand and she pulled me towards these people. And in the end, everything worked out fine. There was no problems or anything. I didn't tell them that I was trans or anything like that. But they just perceived me as the one I wanted to be. And that was, I think, one of the most important moments, that somebody actually perceived you in the way that you also experience yourself. So for me, it was sort of like a big moment. It was very emotional that I wanted to be this person. This was really me. The one that I was at home was never going to be me. So when I got back home, it was really difficult to sort of try to be this man, which I was never going to be. I mean, I tried everything to be a man. I shaved my hair, I put on butch clothes, and I tried everything, believe me. But it was never going to work out, and I was never very convincing as a man either. So it wasn't. So it was sort of either to do it or just not do anything at all. It was just towards the point where I was very depressed. I had a really hard time in school. Everything was going really badly because I was just feeling so incredibly. I was feeling so lonely in a way. So it was either just to do something or not continue at all. And I think for a lot of trans people, this is also sort of the reality, that either you have to be yourself or there is just no point. So for a time, I used to travel abroad as me to sort of, get myself, to sort of just experience it and just sort of investigate who I was. And I did this for, I think, about 1.5 or 2 years before I actually told other people back at home. And that's when, for the first time, that I heard about anyone actually being trans in Iceland. So it was quite difficult to be the only one. You think you're sort of the only one, the only person in the world that's experiencing this, and that's one of the most scariest feelings, that you are the only person. But I think I was 18 when I told finally my parents and everybody, this is how I was, and that I wanted to do an official transition and I wanted to do this, that's when I got acquainted with other trans people who had actually gone through this. And I think that was one of the most important things, to get to know people who have experienced the same things. Because you're just sort of stuck, you don't know what to do, you don't know how to explain it, you don't have the words to tell everyone what it's like. So it's really important to seek out support from different people. And I didn't actually know how to say it to my parents and to my family. It was quite difficult to tell your mother that the boy that we've been raising for 18 years wasn't actually a boy. There was a huge misunderstanding going on. So I actually wrote them a letter where I explained how everything worked. It was supposed to be a one-page letter that turned out to be like a 5-page brochure on what trans is and how everything works, and frequently asked questions and stuff like that. It was very professional. And then because they were both farmers, so I was raised on a farm, so I told them that they were supposed to read this and then they were supposed to go outside and milk the cows and do all the farm stuff, think about it really hard, and then they could come and talk to me and ask me questions or how they felt about this. And when they came back, my father comes to me and he says, so I have one question about all of this. When you go swimming, which locker room are you going to use? And that seemed to be his only worry about the whole thing, which was kind of a shock for me, because I thought it was going to be like this huge bubble and everybody was going to, cry and be angry and it was going to be huge, and then everybody was just like, oh, okay. And I was kind of disappointed actually that people didn't react in a more dramatic way. And I remember telling my little brother, who was only 10 years old at that time, and I had told him like 2 days before what it was to be trans, and then we were playing on the PlayStation and we were playing a game, and I paused the game and I say to him that I need to tell him something, and he's like, okay, what is it? Really annoyed that I was stopping the game. And then I told him that I was trans and that I was going to do a transition, and I was going to start using the name Ugla from now on, and things were going to start changing slowly. And he just looks at me and he says, oh, I see, so can we continue now? And I was just sort of, don't you want to, say something or ask something or cry or, I don't know, just react. But he really didn't react in that way, which I think, for me, I think I'm very privileged that people didn't react in a more negative way, because that's not always the reality of trans people. So I had expected a lot more negative sort of feedback from everyone. But I guess I was really lucky with family members, and they were, I guess they knew a lot more about trans stuff than I thought they did. Because in Iceland there has been like a huge shift in trans issues recently. So, and for the past decade, I think it's been a lot of awareness raising. So they knew a lot more than I thought they would. So right after I come out, I didn't think that I would be like a public spokesperson, or I didn't think that I wanted to be on radio shows or TV shows, but immediately after I came out, I was living in a small town that was only, I think, about the same size of Tosar. So in like one night, everybody knew who I was, and I was the trans girl, and everybody wanted to know, oh, has she done this? Has she had this surgery? Has she had hormones? Has she changed her name? And it was like a flow of questions, and everybody wanted to know everything about me. Every detail about my body, every detail about everything associated with me, which became quite extreme at some points. And I remember a lot of remarks, not always positive ones, also like negative ones, and people were confusing what it is to be a gay man and what it is to be a trans woman. And one of this person actually said, why can't he just be a gay man like everyone else? Which was quite strange. He actually said like normal people. I think that was the actual wording of the sentence, and I was quite confused. But I just explained to him that there was a huge difference between being a gay man and being a trans woman. I think I actually made a joke at the start, and I said, well, being a gay man just wasn't extreme enough for me, so I decided to take it a bit further. Which he didn't understand. He didn't laugh at all. So the joke was kind of lost on me. And that's sort of how I took everything. I didn't take everything too seriously. I was always sort of witty about everything that happened, and when people started asking me questions, for example, about my genitals, I asked them the exact same questions back, and I just started inquiring these personal things from them, and then people became really uncomfortable, and it became really awkward. So I just sort of, you know, started switching things around. And this is when I sort of started to become, I guess, this activist in me. I went to a doctor in my town, and I told him that I wanted to do like an official transition, that I was trans, and his response was, "Oh, so can you maybe explain a bit further what trans is?" So he had no idea what it was to be trans, actually. So I actually had to go to Reykjavik, which is the capital of Iceland, to actually get someone who actually knew what it was to be trans. And I was quite mad that doctors within the healthcare had no idea what it was to be trans. So that's when I sort of fueled up this activist side of me, I think, and I started advocating, and I started going on interviews and going on radio shows, and suddenly I was this huge spokesperson for trans people, and everybody knew who I was, and everybody wanted to do interview, and everybody wanted to ask me questions, and so I was sort of unexpectedly became into this role. And since then I've been fighting a lot in Iceland for trans rights, actually, and there's been a lot of things happening since then. It's a lot different now than it is in the Faroe Islands. We have a lot of more legal frames and a lot of stuff around how you go inside the healthcare system and how you get your gender marker changed and legal documents, and how you can get any surgeries or how you can get hormone therapies. So I think we're going to go more deeply into that in the panel later, exactly how these things work. But I guess for me the most important thing was that I was just able to be who I am, and these strict sort of categories of male and female are even pushed onto me even today. Even though I have transitioned, when I started transitioning, I sort of realized that society was maybe okay with accepting me being a woman, but I had to be a certain kind of a woman. I had to fulfill big stereotypes of what it is to be a woman. I had to wear dresses, I had to wear heels, I had to do makeup, I had to have long hair, I had to like feminine things, I had to do all of these things which women are supposed to do, which I found quite ridiculous. But because I played video games, I like sports, I was kind of a tomboy, so I wasn't very comfortable with these stereotypes that they're inflicting, but I sort of played the part for a while, and I decided to become this feminine woman because that's apparently what everybody wanted. But that wasn't really me either, so I sort of felt like I was being pushed into a direction that wasn't me either, so I was sort of trying to juggle in between these things and trying to find out who I actually was. And it wasn't until that I just realized that I shouldn't care what anybody else thinks about how I should behave or what I should do. Women or men or people in general are just so different. And if I want to play video games, or if I want to do sports, or want to do something manly, I just do it. But of course, reactions from society affects what you're maybe afraid to do or not. So it was sort of difficult to try to juggle between this, and this whole binary of male and female is so insistent everywhere that I'm just sort of over it. I just don't want to associate with this whole male-female thing anymore. I just think it's so over, and it's just so limiting for everyone. It hurts everyone. It hurts men, women, it hurts people who identify in between, it hurts people who don't want to identify with it at all. So as sort of a political stance, I just identify a lot as queer, and that's just to sort of be against this whole system, which I think Eiler mentioned that isn't as stable as we like to believe sometimes. Yeah, so I guess this is my story in a nutshell. I don't know how much time I have left. Okay, so I think I want to ask you if you guys have any questions or anything that you want to ask me. You can ask me anything. There are no stupid or bad questions or any too inappropriate questions or something. If it is, I'll just tell you. So don't feel afraid to ask me anything if there's anything you want to know or anything you want to look into further. Just raise your hand and try to portray the question. Right, okay. Are there any questions, or should we just... This is your chance to ask everything you want to ask. Yeah?
How did you feel after the transition surgery?
How did I feel after the transition surgery? For me, it was the actual genital surgery. For me, was very important, which I think is just a part of who I am. It's not for all trans people to have genital surgery. Is not something everybody wants, and not something everybody needs. I mean, we're all different, so having surgeries is always a personal decision, and for me, it was very important. I think because it was just a part of my body that I felt uncomfortable with. It wasn't so much that I hated this part of my body, but it was something that I felt really uncomfortable with, and it was a bit like having something on your body that wasn't supposed to be there. I guess that's the way you describe the feeling. You always have something that you just don't want, and you just have this really uncomfortable feeling that you want to get rid of it or something like that. So having the surgery was actually really important for me, and just being able to experience my body in a positive way, it was one of the most liberating things for me, because my body was always sort of a negative thing and I never felt comfortable in my own skin. So just this little change actually changed a lot of how I viewed myself and my self-confidence and how I was. But a lot of people always like to make it into this big drama that when you wake up from the surgery everything's amazing and it's so great and it's like this huge moment of victory. But when I woke up I just felt a lot of pain and it was awful. I remember when you took off all the bandages and everything for the first time, and the doctor was like, wow, doesn't this look great? And I was like, no, it really doesn't right now. Kind of looks kind of icky. So, it isn't like this huge moment when you wake up and everything's perfect. I mean, it's a long process, and there's a long healing process afterwards. So it took me a while to get comfortable with my own body, of course, even afterwards. But it was definitely the right decision for me, and I think for a lot of people, it's something they need, but it's not a necessity. I mean, a lot of trans people experience their bodies in different ways. But for me, it was sort of like a victory, but it wasn't like you can see in the movies where everybody likes to make everything like jaw-dropping and tears and everything. It was just an experience.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
How old were you the day you went to the doctor, telling him that you wanted this transition? And how many years, or how old were you when you felt like, this is me, now I can live my life?
When I went to visit the doctor for the first time, I was 17, almost 18. And I think the first time that I felt really comfortable with who I was wasn't until like a few years ago. I think I was 21 or 22 when I was really comfortable with who I was, and this is really who I am. So it took a while. This journey, actually, if I go all the way back, it started like when I was a little kid, but like the official journey, I guess, started around 14, 15, and until I was 22 or 21. Any more questions? Okay, then I think we'll move on. I think Eiler's going to take over again now. And then thank you.